There are so many different types of roller coasters out there, and I think that's what makes this industry so fun, is that you can go to an amusement park and there's a different collection of rides every single time. Like even some that are like the same type of experience, they throw in different elements and maneuvers that just add so much diversity, you know?
Yeah, but sometimes I feel like you go to a park and you do a roller coaster that's so amazing, and then when you really think about it, there aren't many others, or any.
Yeah, it's like a one-off.
Yeah.
Or there's like very few out there.
And you have to ask yourself why. There are some models out there that are just, you know, one-off, or maybe even 2 or 3, and they're so incredible. And then there's some really crappy roller coaster styles that are everywhere. And I want to ask, like, hey, can we get more of these? So we put together a list of roller coaster models that we think there should be more of, basically.
Yeah, and I feel like it's tough to get an accurate judge of these because some of these are going to be newer than others. Some of them just like never took off. Others I feel like are just so expensive that that's like the big reason why we didn't get more of these. And so we'll talk about those as they come along. Let's jump right in with the brand new surf coaster that just opened up at SeaWorld. It's Pipeline. That is by far the newest one to make this list, but we absolutely should see more of them. And I really hope that we do in the future.
Yeah, and this one's interesting because it's a brand new model. A lot of the ones on here have been around for a long time, but this one is brand new, so we haven't really given it time to take off. Overall, it's something that I think would fit into a lot of different parks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it shows that while stand-up coasters were not super enjoyable, they can be. This is a reimagined version of it, and while those others were very positive G focused, this is all negative G. It's about the airtime. And so one thing that we were saying is Pipeline has a couple really good moments, but what if we had a layout that really accentuates that feeling? Like, you know, less about all the bank turns and more about like the big camelbacks.
Yeah, I'm hoping we see something like that someday, like a hyper-esque model, like not necessarily that height and speed.
Sure.
Because I don't even know what that would be like going that fast.
I don't know, but just something that's a lot of those big airtime hills.
The next model is actually in production somewhere right now in Arizona, but as it stands, there's only one in operation. That's the Lightning Run, which is a Chance Hyper GTX.
Yeah.
They are so good, and they don't exist at all.
I know, it's so weird because you have like several manufacturers that produced this style of ride within like similar stats. They chose not to go in versions with Lightning Run, but like I compare it to kind of the Raptor. They went for like that mid-sized thrill. But for whatever reason, Lightning Run was the only one that took off, and that was 2014, I think.
I don't understand why. Like they're fairly comfortable, I'd say.
Mm-hmm.
They're packed full of airtime. They're pretty to look at.
I imagine the cost has got to have something to do with why we haven't gotten more of these things. Maybe the other competitors just have a better price point to go for. That's why the parks are choosing them. And the Arizona one is actually a completely different take from Lightning Run. So this is really just that style of like seating setup with the track, because in terms of ride experience, this Arizona attraction is going to be completely different. It's going to be more like inversion focus and have a launch as well. And funny enough, our next ride also only has one out there, and that is the Vekoma Next Generation Flying Coaster with FLY at Phantasialand.
You say it FLY. Fly.
Whatever, fly.
FLY. Oh. C'est bourgeois. Anyway, yes, that ride is fantastic.
Yeah.
It's so good, and it absolutely trumps anything B&M has done as far as flying coasters, in my opinion.
It's very, very different. While those B&M flying coasters are kind of more, again, like positive G focused, these are a bit more floaty. So it's less about trying to kill you with the pretzel loop and more about like accentuating that feeling of flight. And just what Phantasialand did is insane. Even if we get more of these, I highly doubt that they'll go to the level of what Phantasialand did. And they fixed everything that didn't work with their Flying Dutchmans. You know, no more like laying on your back, or with the B&M flyers, no more dangling down staring at the ground.
Oh my gosh, the transition.
It's so fluid.
The transition is so cool. I love it.
Incredible what they came up with there.
Next one on the list was a personal favorite of mine, given I've only done one, but there's only 2, so I guess that's not really bad. That's 50%. That's a Mack Extreme Spinner.
Yeah, this is just insane. Like, before this, we'd never really seen a high thrill spinning coaster. They were all kind of more family oriented, but this is like, let's throw everything at you. Let's do a full extreme layout, but the seats are rotating as you're going around.
Yeah, like Ride to Happiness is one of the best coasters in the entire world. And I'm sure Time Traveler is great.
It's not as good as Ride to Happiness. Like, that one has a controlled spin, so it's not as much on the extreme, like disorientation feeling. It's just like, but you still get those odd sensations of going through, like, an inversion sideways.
I think the reality is that Mack coasters, especially those, are, like, really expensive.
Yes.
But they're so pretty. They're so themable. I don't know. There are a number of parks that, like, not just because I like them, but I actually think they would be a great fit.
The Busch Gardens parks.
Definitely the Busch Gardens. Well, yeah, because, like, you know, they're kind of skimping on the theming, but, like, the trains are so beautiful, they don't need to. Like, it's already themed. Like, it's great.
We've seen several new straddle coasters come out from Intamin. However, they've been on the tamer side of things. When you look at rides like Juvailin and Jet Rescue at SeaWorld Australia and Jersey Summerland, those are straddle coasters that are actually extreme and thrilling, and we need more of those. Now, you know, I like how that you can have two different sides of it, but why are the parks just going with the tamer versions?
I don't know. Like, I thought Juvailin was amazing, and, like, I really hope that some park in the U.S. like goes and, like, tries it out, and they're like, oh, dang. Like, we could do something on that level, because the thing is, there were kids riding it. Like, tons of them. So, like, it's not so extreme that, like, I don't know, that it would scare off children or, like, families, but it's not so tame that it's like...
When you do Wave Breaker, that's very much a one and done. But then when we just hopped on Jet Rescue, we were expecting it to feel in a similar way, but we got off and we're like, let's get back in line. That was fantastic. And it still keeps with that, like, low height requirement.
Next up, we're going to stick with the same manufacturer, and we're going to talk about their more modernized versions of their mega coasters and their hyper coasters, because we have plenty of them that exist in the world as far as, like, the older generation of them,
like those in the 2000s, like early 2000s, like the Supermans and Goliath, Walby Holland, you know.
But, like, I'm thinking, like, Conda and Hyperion, like, those are just incredible. And I want to see, like, that track style, that seating setup, like the restraints, the trains, everything. Like, it's so great.
Well, it's been interesting to watch because Intamin's LSM multi-launch coasters have really been taking off. And so actually those are not on this list because we're starting to see more and more of those pop up. But their mega coasters are more expensive. You need a lot more land for them. And so not as many are going for those with the lift hill. They're opting for maybe a ride with a launch.
I love the launch coasters, but there is something, like, a different feeling when you're, like, going up a lift hill and going on a big drop versus, like, the launch and the top hat, and, like, that's all well and good. But I would love to see a park in the U.S. buy something like Conda, especially. Like, that's very doable. Hyperion's, like, its own beast.
Yeah,
like,
that's almost a giga coaster.
Yeah, like, I'm not, like, expecting that to happen, but, like, it's technically still only a hyper coaster.
Gerstlauer does some amazing family coasters. The one in particular that I think comes to mind is a ride like Fire Chaser Express. But also, we were just recently at Parkdale Cafe, and they had a ride called Bybee, which was a phenomenal name, but
so cute.
It's a similar style where you launch out of the station, then you go up a lift hill, and it's like terrain-based going around, and it's just a great take on a family coaster. As an enthusiast, you still enjoy it because it's like enough of a satisfying experience with like some cool turns, little airtime pops, but kids will absolutely be able to enjoy it.
Yeah, I would absolutely agree with that. I mean, people at Dollywood, like, that's always the longest line in the park because people love it so much. I feel like there are a lot of parks out there that would benefit from doing something similar, and like the backwards section and everything. Like, we did a Pegasus at
Pegasus Express, and
that was like an incredible family coaster, and like everybody loved it. I just think you could see more of those places.
I think the problem is that there is so much competition in the family thrill market. So like Zamperla has their family coasters, Intamin has their family coasters, Vekoma has their family coasters. So if you're a park that you're looking for a ride in this classification, there's a lot of options to choose from. And so I think that's why sometimes Gerstlauer gets left in the dust a little bit, because maybe some parks are opting for one of these other companies.
After going to Europe, we tried out some like modern Vekomas, and after doing just a few, we're like, oh my gosh, we need more of these out here. They're fantastic.
Yeah, well, and Europe is doing pretty well with adding these. I think we're talking about the U.S. here.
Yes.
Like, this is, come on, guys. Like, pay attention to what's going on over there. Dollywood, you're on the right track. He added a big, like, Vekoma family coaster. I think that parks are going to ride that and realize that new Vekoma is smooth and fun. What does that look like on a big scale? And you ride Lek Coaster and you're like, oh my gosh, that was so cool.
I don't expect anything like Lek Coaster.
No, that's probably going to be a one of a kind.
But I'm thinking like Phoenix. Like, Phoenix is so much fun, and that's another one that, like, while it is thrilling in nature, it's not so thrilling that it would scare off families. Like,
Vekoma does great launch coasters too. Abyssus, a lot of fun, you know, and Formula as well. So make it happen.
Like that. Any of those modern thrilling Vekomas. Like, put some in the U.S., please.
Parks, pay attention. So let's end things off with a ride style that is just so insane. There's probably a reason why we only got 3 of them ever built. You have the original by Aero, and then you have 2 from S&S. We're talking about the 4th Dimension coasters with Edge Nika and Dynaconda. Just unbelievable experiences that cost so much money. It's I get it.
It's a damn shame too, because like, okay, granted, like I'm not the biggest X2 fan, but I imagine that I would very much enjoy the other 2 because they fix the main issues that I have with X2.
Absolutely.
That being said, I'd love to see more of those because they are so interesting and unique, and like I feel like they're people grabbers. Like people are like, I have to try that because it's so weird.
You stare at it from the ground and you're like, holy crap, look at them doing that. And then you're actually on the experience rotating through these elements, and there's just nothing else like it. It doesn't feel anything like the 4D free spins that are free rotation. This is like linked up with the track, so like as it's going through the maneuver, it does the same motion every single time. It's an incredible experience.
You look at X2 and it's such an icon in California, but if you aren't a coaster enthusiast and you don't live in Southern California, you probably don't even know what X2 is. And I feel like if they were to pop up in like other parks, they would feel like brand new because no one's ever heard of them for the most part. So they would totally be like an attention grabber. Like, I don't know. I'd like to see it happen someday, but I'd like to see all these happen.
Yeah.
And there's probably more, honestly.
Oh, I know. This is just a small section of them. The ones that like immediately came to our minds, but there's a ton of crazy types of rides out there, some of which aren't even like happening anymore. They were just kind of like one-offs, and then we'll probably never see any more ever again.
Yeah.
Like,
these ones have potential,
these
though.
Absolutely do. Like, I really hope that we see more of these pop up, and I think for a lot of these we will. Maybe others it might be a bit harder.
I was going to say, the one on here that I'd say is the least likely is the 4th Dimension coasters. Like, I almost feel like those have reached their peak and died off, but a lot of these are still like very much in the game.
Yeah. Oh, like Mack Extreme Spinners, I think we're definitely going to see more of those. And Vekoma is on the up and up. Those are going to, I think, pop off. So let us know down in the comments below what you want to see more of, which one of these you'd like to see at maybe your home park or something, like what would work well. And as usual, we appreciate your support. Following along here with Coaster Studios, if you're new with the channel, we'd really appreciate you subscribing, and stay tuned for more content here on the channel. So thank you all for joining, and we'll see you next time.